It's Monday, December 29th, 2025. It's cold and snowy in southeast Michigan, and I don't even have to ask, but I'm guessing it's probably dark and wet out in Seattle. But regardless of the weather, regardless of it being the holidays, that also means we have to make time for the Knee Jerks podcast of Beaton and Nick and Big Al. I'm the Big Al, the Equation, longtime Detroit-based podcaster. Joining me, as always, our West Coast correspondent, the man who probably has to carry an umbrella and raincoat every time he leaves the house. That would be Nick Milanovich. How's things out west, Nick?
Oh, not too bad. By the way, you know who the people from out of town are because they're the only ones carrying umbrellas, actually.
There you go.
Nobody here carries an umbrella. None of the locals do. And so I ditched mine more than 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And it's actually not been too wet the last few days, but it's been
honestly, all right. Considering your location, they're probably all wearing button-down Oxford shirts with fleece vests. The tech pro outfit.
I think a comedian described it. Everybody here is dressed like they're ready to go hiking at the drop of a hat. So
exactly.
And we dress in layers. So.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of hiking, it has nothing to do with Greg, but had to come up with a segue, and that would be joining us as well is the man who knows a lot of things about a lot of things, who wrote another column today on his Substack, which you must subscribe to. Today he wrote about the Tigers and Scott Harris, and that would be Mr. Greg Eno. How are things for you, Greg? What's up?
Not bad, Al. Thank you for having us once again, hosting us as you always do. Nick Milanovich is here. Good to see him. We had a great holiday here at the Eno household. I am Greg Eno from my Out of Bounds Substack, gregeno.substack.com, in case you were wondering. Subscribe. I will be in your inbox every Monday. As Al mentioned, today's piece was about Scott Harris and my frustration. What we've talked about on this program, and Nick has mentioned many, many times about his rather, I don't know, kind of restrained way of running a team. Well, I don't know what you would call it, but just kind of, I just finally getting around to this because he had said some things a few weeks ago that really grinded my gears about not blocking young players again, and all the offensive improvement was going to come from within, and it just didn't sound like it was going to be a very promising offseason.
Yeah.
So I just kind of dumped on that today. So please subscribe, gregeno.substack.com. No guests tonight. That's okay. We've got lots to talk about in the world of Detroit sports. I will say that we have something that we always do. We like to play a game we like to call Whose Birthday Is It, Maestro? Everybody knows how we play this game by now. I give Al and Nick a clue or two or three of an individual whose birthday it is today in the world of sports. And if one of those gentlemen can correctly guess this person within the first two clues, they will receive the home version of the Knee Jerks in Trivial Pursuit form. Remember Trivial Pursuit? The old trivia game?
The sort of game that usually only played when like on Christmas when all the family was over.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, because this Christmas we played the Game of Life for the first time in decades.
Yeah. They always had different versions, movie versions, sports version. Well, this is the Knee Jerks version. This is going to take you through the history of the Knee Jerks trivia-wise since 2009. So,
oh my God, I probably could even answer all of them.
This person has made his name in football. He was born on this date in 1963. He's currently very active in the sport on the sidelines. I will tell you that. Something I did not know about him: he was a replacement quarterback for the 1987 what they called the Spare Bears, which was the strike version of the Chicago Bears. I didn't know that, but he's been in the game, around the game as a coach for many, many years, and is currently leading a team in the American Football Conference.
Jim Harbaugh?
No, good guess.
Can't be.
No. Very good guess.
He said the AFC.
Harbaugh plays for the real Bears.
Yeah. Oh God. In the AFC. Damn. Drawing a blank. A quarterback. He was a quarterback. He was a.
He's not known as a player. You won't know him as a player.
No, but he was a replacement player.
He was a replacement player. Yes, he was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good Lord! Now I'd have to sit here and go through all the AFC coaches. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to pass on that question so we don't burn up all our time.
Sure.
We'll get back to it after we get into our discussion. And that we have a lot going on. Honestly, guys, football, for the most part, has sucked up all the oxygen when it comes to Detroit sports over the past couple of weeks since we last talked. Between the Wolverines firing Sherrone Moore, which had just happened when we last talked, and now the rumor-filled coaching search, which finally came to an end this past weekend with the hiring of Kyle Whittingham, Utah's former head coach, and obviously the Lions, which has one of the more disappointing losses of this in recent memory, quite a while, honestly. With it was an ugly game on Christmas night, when it was like 7:00 when it ended. But regardless, it was just an awful game. 23-10 loss to Minnesota, which means there's no playoffs this year. Yeah, so we'll have a lot to talk about there. Pistons are on the West Coast, so who's watching them right now? Unless you want to stay up till 1:00 in the morning, but they're still in first place. The Red Wings are still in first place. And Greg pretty much covered what the Tigers are doing. Scott Harris is busy as pissing people off as they continue to sign bullpen arms. So with that, guys, let's start. I might as well start with the Lions because that Dan Campbell had a press conference today, essentially reaffirming the fact that Brad Holmes and himself have a lot of decisions to make in this coming offseason. There's going to be some changes, most likely. There's already talk of I saw a rumor the other day that he's going to look for another offensive coordinator off one of the branches of his tree, someone who might be associated with again, someone has a relationship. We'll get into all that. But regardless of all that, guys, it was not a fun game to watch. The Lions just looked like, I don't want to say they quit, but they looked like a team that was kind of starting to play out the string, and they kind of knew it. Well, I'll ask you, Greg. Do you think it's just because when your offensive line just imploded like it did in that game, it makes everything else look bad? And that, because I see people saying, "Oh, the Lions quit," or the Lions, the window was closed. I don't think it's anything like that. I just think they have a broken offensive line, and that really came to a head this past Christmas Day with playing a backup center. One of the guards was a backup. They didn't, I believe Taylor Decker didn't play in the game. They didn't have neither of the two tight ends, which has been a massive thing. So the entire offensive line really is the crux of the matter, it seems like. And that's why the Lions, for the most part, look so goddamn awful.
Yeah, it's kind of like in baseball when a team isn't hitting, they look so lackadaisical and they look so
bingo. That's
dead,
right
and
there.
they look so there's nothing going on, and it's not for lack of effort. It may look like that, but it's really not that. It just gives the illusion of that. And you're right. This case, the offensive line, was. It has been moribund for quite a while now. It's been on life support. And you mentioned all the centers they've used. And I think they used 3 in that game alone. I think in that game alone, they used 3 against the Vikings. So, they couldn't run the football. They haven't been able to run the football for quite some time. Jahmyr Gibbs has been really not a factor for the last several games during this 3-game losing streak, really. Goff's been a little off as well. Just a smidgen off of some of his passes. You mentioned Laporta, and I really, as good as Laporta is, I underestimated how significant his loss was going to be. And maybe it's because the rest of the line was also banged up, but I really thought they could get by without Laporta. I think what maybe more than just Laporta, though, was Brock Wright also going down. I think
because they ran what they called 12 personnel all the damn time, but you need your top 2 tight ends.
You can. I think we've seen the Lions without Laporta, but with Wright in there. And Brock Wright's a very capable player. He's not Laporta, but he's capable. Right. And without either of those 2 guys, that really, I think, I know you're going to talk a lot about Glasgow and about, Decker being banged up and the issues they had at left guard and so forth. But really, Laporta's loss, that really, I think, to me was worse than I thought it was going to be. But having said that, They never really fired on all cylinders this year. They never really got going. Now they have that 4-game winning streak toward the beginning of the year. They went 4-1. Their wins weren't really signature. They didn't have a big win all year where you could really point to it. Maybe the Ravens game at the time, it seemed like a big win. The Ravens are 8-8. They had an uneven year themselves, although they beat the Packers the other day. But there really wasn't a win you can point to and say, boy, was that a big one. You know, they lost all the good teams they played on their schedule. Even the Chiefs at the time were kind of good. They just didn't beat anybody of note. They struggled to beat the Cowboys. They struggled to beat the Giants. The teams that they handled were bad teams. The Commanders, the Bengals, the Browns. You know, what team did they beat that made you really think, wow? I mean, even the Bucks, I thought that was a big win at the time, that Buccaneers game Monday night. But Buccaneers weren't very good. I think they're 7-9 right now. They've struggled their second half of the year has been as bad as the Lions' the second half of the year has been. So there wasn't really ever a big win, so to speak. They just kind of were, you know, on that win one, lose one thing for quite some time. I don't think that this is a shocker, but it was an awful game. You're right. It was both teams. I mean, it was bad football. It was just bad football. It reminded me of that Broncos Jets game I saw. They played it, I think, in England or in Germany or somewhere out there in Europe. That was a terrible game too. Just bad football. Right. And it just didn't feel like that. I think what was disappointing out is that they played like that in a game that supposedly meant something. Now the Packers lost. I mean, if the Lions would have won that game in Minnesota, it would have made this week kind of interesting, because if the Packers would lose this weekend coming up, albeit at Minnesota, and the Lions could go into Chicago and win, again, not two things that are likely to happen, but it would have meant that this game, last game of the year, would have meant something to them. Right. But they didn't play like there was any urgency or like their playoff season was on the line. It was a weird vibe, but I think you're right. I think it stems from the fact that the line was so bad they couldn't get anything going, and when you can't get anything going in the trenches, it just makes the whole, like to your point, makes the whole team look bad.
Yeah, Nick, what are your thoughts on what you saw on Christmas?
I mean, I agree with Greg, so I won't rehash anything from the offensive line. But one of the outcomes is when your offense is inept, it means they're not in the field for very long, and the defense is on the field for a long time, and that's never good for a defense. And you could see it catching up to them later on in the game, because quite honestly, the stats weren't that great for the Minnesota offense either.
No.
They were horrible. What are they, like minus something passing yards or something?
Yeah.
Something stupid like that. So it's not like they were lighting it up on the Lions defense, but the Lions looked unprepared. They looked sloppy all around. And I think with the exception of maybe the punter, Jack Fox, but it was just an ugly game. They didn't look like they were trying to grind it out like they have. Like in the early days of Dan Campbell, they were trying to grind out wins. Even that year that they did not go to the playoffs, whatever year, I can't remember. They finished like 9-7 or something. They were grinding it out even in the last game, even when they knew they weren't going to the playoffs. But that was like a different attitude, and you kind of didn't see that in them. Right. And I don't know if it's just because of all the sloppiness. It was a hard to watch game. I couldn't take it anymore.
I'm glad you said that, Nick, because that was something else I wanted to touch on was the lack of preparation. And I think this is a bad Dan Campbell year, quite frankly. I think he had a bad year, and I, we'll talk, I'm sure, about Holmes and so forth, but I thought Campbell had a kind of a bad year. And you're right. They did not. I think your reference to that last game of the season in 2023 when they were out of the playoffs, but yet knocked the Packers out of the playoffs in Green Bay was a perfect example of that burgeoning, actually the 2022 season, that burgeoning culture that was starting to grow. And you're right, there was none of that on Thursday. It was just because the old Lions teams, when I say old, 2023, 2024, would have been able to overcome it if their defense had played that well, would have been able to squeak out a touchdown at the end of the game, even though they had played so poorly. You would have thought they could. There was just no there was something missing about this year's team, and I think Campbell did a poor job in several. There were several games, guys, that I don't think they looked ready to play. They had some slow starts. They had to come from behind, and even in some of their victories, they fell behind, especially at home. There were a handful of games where I thought they weren't prepared to play football. And that might be, sometimes when a team tastes a little bit of success, they start to what they, pardon my expression, smell their own farts a little bit, and you can go off the route. Maybe this is going to be good for them. Maybe being slapped in the face and maybe eating a little humble pie might be good for everybody in the organization from the top on down.
Well, let me follow you up with that. What do you think? There might be a little bit of hubris put into this season as to how the roster was built and how maybe they attacked some of these games?
Of course.
And you think that's more from Holmes or from Dan Campbell?
I'll let Nick take that one.
It's probably from both, honestly.
Yeah.
And they probably were expecting to say the offensive line to be better than it was.
Yeah.
Thinking they had, guys in place to be the next man up when Ragnow decides to retire. Glasgow is hurt. Decker's hurt. But I think they were – I always hate to talk about teams in this terms, but they did sort of miss that swagger on offense that they used to have. They used to kind of walk into the offensive drive confident that they're going to make the fourth down play.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't have that this year. It's just kind of like they looked lost, like they're flailing around. And like Amon-Ra St. Brown, it seemed like he was dropping more passes than I've ever seen him drop.
Yeah.
It's like you might have some that, they're off target, but damn, he's been a sure-handed receiver. Just absolutely sure-handed.
Yep.
And even this year, it seemed off, even with him.
Yep.
So I don't know what it is, but what has changed with the offensive line personnel, and also who's operating that offensive line. They brought in a new offensive coordinator, and that didn't work out. They made a change. They went to the head coach took over. That didn't help. So. That kind of like instability doesn't always help.
Yeah.
Teams players need time to work together, and then they have to get used to the coach and the new coach and how they do things. And so there's an adjustment period.
Yeah. And I think we all maybe downplayed too much how much all the brain drain was going to affect the team. They lost both their coordinators, and both coordinators took a lot of assistant coaches with them. So there was a ton of coaching turnover this past year, and obviously not all of them hit, specifically John Morton. Even though he wasn't fired, he was essentially demoted. I don't see him coming back at all. He got the Anthony Lynn treatment, much like what Dan Campbell did with him, in his first year here. And that kind of reminds me, I think I mentioned this in a text to you guys, of what happened to the Eagles a couple years ago. Those Eagles teams imploded at the end of the year. This was the year after they made the Super Bowl, and they lost both their coordinators and a lot of coaches. And they managed to sneak into the playoffs, but they backed in, essentially, because they were bad at the end of the year, and they got knocked out easily in the first round. But they were able to bounce back, and to the point now where they are back to being a Super Bowl contender. So I find all the window is closing overblown somewhat. I mean, one decent offseason, and this team will be back to winning 11, 12 games and being a Super Bowl contender. But the question is, what decisions do they think they need to make this coming offseason? And if it doesn't involve the interior of the offensive line, then none of it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think and maybe this is just me being coping or being delusional, but I think everything that we're talking about here is fixable. There was definitely everything all three of us have said is true. The swagger is gone. The St. Brown thing, the offensive line, of course, is in disarray. Guys got hurt. Campbell had a bad year. Holmes didn't do enough. All these things are true. But I think all of these things are reversible. I look at the 2022 Rams. They won the Super Bowl in Stafford's first year there. And 22, they won 5-12. 5-12. It's like, what? The Rams won 5-12? Yeah, they did. And then they came right back and right back to the playoffs in 23. The Lions beat them. Back again in 24. Here we are again in 25. So it happens. Good teams can take a step backward. I mean, that's why it's so fascinating to me. As much as I hate the Packers, we all do. You got to give the Packers credit. They hardly ever have a down year. I mean, hardly ever. It's amazing. They haven't had I can't remember how many down years they've had. Down years, truly down, where they've been, won 6-7 games in I don't know how long. That team is always good, always, and it's amazing to me that they can be that good all the time. And they've gone through several coaches. Everything starts at the Holmgren thing, then McCarthy, then now with LaFleur. They've changed some quarterbacks too. Not often. They've always had a stable quarterback situation. But who we all thought Jordan Love can't possibly win like Aaron Rodgers did. Jordan Love's winning. I mean, he's a winning quarterback. They have if something's going on in the water in Green Bay, because they are never bad. They're never bad. And even when they are okay, they're still a good team. The Lions have done it for a couple of years now, so it's uncharted territory for them to be this good for even 2 years in a row. So I'm willing to say that they had a down year. It happens. Okay, fine. Next year, though, and the year after that, will tell us if we're back into the SOL territory or if this was just a step backward. I really believe there's enough talent on the roster to believe that they will be back. In fact, if you look at the roster, 5 Pro Bowlers, of course, it's amazing that this is a last place team in their division. They're a last place team right now. But they are. I mean, and they deserve to be in last place. I mean, quite frankly. But I think all of this stuff is fixable. But it's going to be a very interesting off season, and I'm really eager to see how they do next year and see if they get some of that swagger back.
Yeah. And speaking of the Packers, what was the quarterback that beat the Lions in I think the last game of the year?
Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn. Watching the Packers last night and seeing Malik Willis do what he did last night, gave me. I'm just wondering if some team. Because remember, then Flynn got a big contract and never lived up to it. Right. I'm just wondering if Malik Willis will get. Is kind of the fool's gold kind of thing. Hell, like a Scott Mitchell was kind of the same way as well. Right. Yeah. Put together a couple decent games, got a big contract, and never lived up to it. But that's also it's frustrating watching the Packers continually to get good quarterback play, even from their backup, when we went decades without any good quarterback play until Matthew Stafford showed up. And even then, he was up and down, and that's a whole nother discussion anyway. But, yeah, it is something how – I will say one thing. If there's going to be blame thrown around, I do not want to see much, if any, thrown at Jared Goff. The guy has thrown another 4,000-plus yard season, 30-plus touchdowns, with the worst. I don't think the offensive line he had his first year here was as bad as it's been over the past few games, and he's still putting up halfway decent numbers. Has he been perfect? No, hell no. And he's had a couple clunkers this year as well. But overall, of the issues this team has, it's not at quarterback. And you still see people saying, "Oh, the Lions need a mobile quarterback. The Lions need a dual threat quarterback. The Lions need someone who can get away from the rush." You still need a guy. And the thing is, though, the one thing that's always stuck in my mind when it comes to quarterback is that one quote from Brad Holmes, where he said, "In this league," paraphrasing, "in this league, it is much easier to get worse at quarterback than it is to get better."
Sure.
So, if there's obviously maybe Goff make a few changes here and there, how maybe he approaches the next coming season, but I'm not going to throw much blame at all at Jared Goff for what happened this year.
Well, you're right that quarterback should be the least of their worries right now. There's no question about that. The issue that people have with Goff, and I do at times as well, is he's not mobile. And I know that's a cliche to say that. And I'm not saying anything nobody else has already said a million times. I get it. My concern with him is that can you win an NFL championship with a quarterback such as he? The yards are great. Stafford threw for a lot of yards in Detroit too.
I'm saying Stafford is essentially a drop back quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
and won a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is maybe mobile, but he's essentially a drop back quarterback.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But the trend now is, and this goes from the college level too. College level into the pros is mobile quarterbacks, guys who can run and throw. Now,
and are always out of the shotgun in college anymore.
Now is that overrated? Yes, at times it is. Just calling somebody a mobile quarterback doesn't mean they're good. It just means they can move around a little bit, use their feet to get out of trouble, maybe make a play. Now it was interesting because Goff actually made a play with his feet on Thursday, if you remember. There was a play where he was flushed out of the pocket, and somehow he got out of the fray. And I thought he was just going to tuck the ball in. In fact, he did tuck the ball in for a second. I thought he was just going to run out of bounds. He tucked the ball in, but then threw it and found he was either St. Brown or somebody. I think St. Brown for a first down. It was an amazing. I've never seen Goff really do that in Detroit. But for the most part, I think the concern is people are wondering, if can you win an NFL championship with a quarterback such as he, who doesn't get out of trouble very well, doesn't make plays with his feet. He's not Mahomes. He's not Jackson. He's not a lot of these Caleb, even a lot of these guys who can make plays with their feet. He's not that. So the question then becomes, not that he's bad. I mean, not that the Lions need a new quarterback necessarily, but the question is, and it's a fair question, can you win the Super Bowl with him? That's the question. It doesn't mean that he's bad. And it doesn't mean that you got to go out looking for a new quarterback. I'm not saying that. Right. It's just I'm on the side of just asking that question. I hate to sound like Tucker Carlson. I'm just asking questions. But it is a fair question. Can you win a Super Bowl with now you mentioned Stafford. That's a good point. Stafford is not he's not Mahomes either. That's true. Yeah. But Stafford there's I think he's got a better pocket presence to me than Goff does. And maybe that's just because Goff is so immobile that he looks like he has no internal clock. But he doesn't get out of trouble. I think Stafford I've seen Stafford get out of some trouble. He's not Joe Namath back there, but he's also not Mahomes. He's somewhere in between. Yeah. Goff is more like Namath, where he has almost zero mobility back there. Anytime you get any pressure on him, he's going down or he's fumbling. And I'm not at all suggesting the Lions need to go look for another quarterback. That's the least of my worries right now. Fix the offensive line. Get guys healthy again, make some moves of the draft, maybe sign some free agents. And I'm not writing this guy off by any stretch.
Right. Yeah. And what was even more disturbing in that game, though, was just how, or our last few games, just how we talked about how the Lions were able to impose their will on the offensive line, specifically when it came to running the ball and protecting Goff. Yeah. We've kind of seen the same issues happen with the defensive line against the running game. Even when the Lions were giving up a fair amount of yards, it was almost always because of the pass, and obviously because of the attrition they've had in the defensive backfield.
Right.
But they have not been able to do anything against the run as of late. I mean, guys they specifically signed to be run stoppers, gap pluggers like like Reader and the first round draft Williamson, the kid they drafted out of Ohio State, was their first round pick. It's just been ugly to see. And then when you factor in when you lose 2 All-Pro safeties,
yep,
and one of them, and who knows if either one of those guys are going to get back to the level they were at, because obviously Kirby Joseph was hinting at his knee injury was something that he's just going to have to deal with and play through the pain. At least he hasn't gone into depth about it, but that's what he was inferring. And then you got Branch, who tore his Achilles, and also it's like, holy shit! What happened to the defensive backfield? And that's such a bad luck. I mean, for all the issues Lions fans have had with Brad Holmes, signing guys who were injured. Well, You had one tore his Achilles, another came up with a chronic knee issue, and then Terry Arnold as well didn't have an injury history in college, and now has been banged up essentially almost all of the season with either, I think, a shoulder and now a concussion. That's stuff you just can't predict. That is just bad luck, and the Lions have had more than their fair share of just bad injury luck the past 2 years, and majority of it you can't blame anybody for. That's football, and even though people are looking for someone to point fingers at, you can't point fingers at the training staff for a guy tearing his Achilles.
There is I mean, I think that's the latest. It's one of the many things that Lions fans are talking about nowadays, since they're not going to make the playoffs. They're hang the quarterback, fire the general manager, fire the defensive coordinator. But you're right. They've had a ton of injuries. Remember Marcus Davenport, who plays a couple games and then is out for like 3/4 of a season.
Yeah, that's one you could probably put on Holmes, but I think the majority of it you really can't.
No, and both Hutchinson and McNeil are coming off of serious injuries too.
Yeah.
So to act like they're just going to be back where they left off and not need some conditioning, getting used to playing again.
Yeah.
They have to play with repaired legs now. So it's a really different animal too.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about that defense. Last year they were decimated. This year they're decimated, and very serious, year-ending injuries. So I don't know what the medical staff could have done with any of that. It's like, okay, you tore up your Achilles. Let's repair it and get you back on the field. But it's not like, I don't know. It's just, I've heard like strength and conditioning coaches getting fired for whatever reason, and reasons like this, like too many injuries and medical staff, but it just kind of doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah,
it's football. Jesus Christ!
Yes,
like all games. Plus, you have 17 games now too. So, one more game that counts, and that could be injury. And then if you make
a lot more short weeks as well.
Exactly. It's not just like, okay, Sunday to Sunday, maybe you play a Monday night game. Well, there's the fucking Thursday night games. And then there's like a Sunday night game, and it just getting more and more ridiculous. You're right. It's a shortened week sometimes. And the Lions in the last couple of years have been playing a lot of games at odd times, right? Mondays and Thursdays and Sunday nights. A lot of prime spots now, which they haven't been before. So I don't know if that caught up to them or not.
That very possibly could have. Right now we're also in the period now where they're playing on Saturdays for the last couple of weeks of the year as well. And I can see. I know some fans called out the Lions because I know specifically Penei Sewell was not happy that they played on Christmas, and I don't think it's so much that they got stuck playing on Christmas, because I think it's more they both actually played. I saw this brought up in a few different places, but they also got stuck playing on Thanksgiving, which is, if you're playing on Thanksgiving, you shouldn't have to play on Christmas. And also the fact that they had the first game of the year in July, that stupid Hall of Fame game.
Well, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So they started camp a week early because of that stupid ass exhibition game, and then they get stuck playing. They shouldn't get stuck playing Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a tradition, but if you're playing Thanksgiving, you shouldn't be playing on Christmas. At least the way it was set up for this year. So again, it was those silly Thursday games where we had a triple header on Christmas Day this year, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't even get me going on the NFL scheduling right now. But it's between the short weeks, the odd times. I could see the fact that not having enough time to recover from game to game could be playing into some of the issues this team is having. I mean, I can't speak for other teams, but I'm sure that is kind of typical to the NFL now because players are bigger, stronger, faster, and playing on short rest.
Right, and I mean, if there's ever a sport that takes a toll on the body, it's this one. This is no joke at all, and
yeah.
So I wasn't thinking about how heavily that might play into it because I was wondering, why are the Lions having so many injuries on the defense in particular? Are they practicing? Are they pushing them too hard during practice in addition to the games?
That could play into it as well. Yeah.
That I have no idea how to comment on that, but I know that comes up sometimes.
Yeah. But all options are out there now because it's been an issue for 2 consecutive seasons. I think the majority of it is bad luck, but some of this stuff has to at least be playing a little bit into it, especially if with the odd schedule that the really good teams for them or teams that are expected to be really good have to factor into their schedule. It's kind of ridiculous. But now we're playing out the string. Greg, one of the topics that's come up with the Lions, being they only have 1 game left, and they're playing Chicago, and Chicago does have something to play for when it comes to playoff seeding. I see a lot of fans going into, they should just tank and bench all the starters, or and just wave the white flag in this game. And one of the things when it comes to that, Greg, though, I think fans underrate how much football players want to play football. Look at what's going on with Max Crosby, where the Raiders said, "We're just playing out the string. We don't want you to get it dinged up anymore. You're not playing the last 2 games of the year," and he was pissed, legitimately pissed. So I can understand maybe sitting some guys who are battling lingering injuries, like Amon-Ra's been playing through a knee injury, Taylor Decker has had that bad shoulder all year. But knowing Dan Campbell, knowing the Lions, the culture, and knowing football players in general, I don't see them benching a lot of guys for the entire game.
Probably not. I think there'd be more of a case for that if the game didn't mean anything and they were in the playoffs, and maybe going and playing next week or the week after that. Not playing until next year, I don't know that that's really a factor. I think they would love nothing more than the Bears have clinched the division, so there's not they can't unfortunately ruin the Bears' day because the Bears have won the division regardless. It would be strictly not wanting to go 1-5 in the division, which is another thing we haven't talked about yet, is the potential of going 1-5 in the division. But I'm with you. I mean, hey, I remember I think it was 2006. The Lions were 2-13, went into Dallas.
Yeah,
Dallas had the game meant a little bit more to Dallas than it did Detroit because Detroit was 2-13.
Yeah.
But John Kidna led the Lions. It was a back and forth. I think it was when Testaverde was the quarterback of the Cowboys, and he and Testaverde got into a shootout, and the Lions won. They won 3-13. I remember, idiots like Valente bitching the next morning because the Lions won and they ruined a draft position or something. I mean, hey, you clearly have never played football before. I haven't either, but I know enough about people who have played football to know when you take the field, you take the field to win. You don't take the field to not lose I believe with all my heart that football players want to win every single game they play, regardless of where they are in the standings, regardless of what it means for draft position. None of that stuff matters to them once they step out of the field. All they see is an opportunity to win a football game. So the Lions won that game. It was look it up. It was the last game. I think it was a 2006 season. They beat the Cowboys in a shootout. They didn't have to win that game, but they kept going back. It was an entertaining game. Yeah. And then fans, why did they win? They could have gone 2-14 and gotten one slot better in the draft when you're drafting in the top 3 anyway. So I think that the Lions will they might even look better that Sunday than they did against the Vikings, believe it or not. I don't know what it is. You don't want to go. You want to go out with first of all, they don't want to finish with a losing record. That's the other thing. They don't want to go home 8-9. That would be horrible. Start 8-5 and finish 8-9. There's plenty of incentive. It's the Bears. It's a division game. It's Ben Johnson. It's, the team that took the division title from them. There's a lot still to play for if you believe in all that bulletin board stuff. But the bottom line is what you said. These are football players that want to play football and they want to win, period.
And I'll just add to this. It's like, I hear a lot of the conversations about tanking as a strategy. And I think I've ever only heard one team in one sport tank as a strategy. And that was the Philadelphia 76ers. And what do they call it? The experiment or something. And fuck, that didn't even work that well either in the end. But when people say the team is tanking, it's like, no, they actually just suck. They're a bad team. They're a bad team. They're going to lose because they've been losing all year long. They know how to do it. So, but I agree with you, Greg, that and any player and coach that tries to lose or gives a half-assed effort should be gone.
Yeah. Because
if those people are retained, they're going to be that way next year too. So that's the bad culture to have.
Yeah.
So
and what you're thinking of is the process.
The process, yeah.
The process, which ultimately failed.
Yeah. What did it produce? Maybe it got a couple all-stars out of it in the end, but Philadelphia hasn't been that great.
Yeah, and Philadelphia is not going to win a title out of everything they got out of the so-called process. So it ultimately was a failure. It really was. Yeah, and I looked up the game, Greg. Kitna threw for 306 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yep. What was the final score?
The Cowboys. Yeah. Final score was 39-31.
Yep.
And it was Tony Romo.
Oh, it was Romo. Okay.
Well, was the quarterback. So and it was the Lions. Actually, it was you're right. It was that's a hell of a game to end the season. If I end up watching a game like that to end the season, I'm kind of happy. It was an entertaining game, and at this point, draft. I think right now there's the draft position is like 15th or something like that. Is there really that much difference between drafting 15th and maybe 18th or something like that?
Right.
And realistically, like knowing Brad Holmes, that I will say this. I can understand somewhat the argument fans have, guys, when it comes to, I think Brad Holmes over the last couple of years may have had a little bit of smartest guy in the room syndrome into where he saw the guy he wanted and threw so much draft capital at moving up that ultimately that might have hurt depth a little bit. But the thing is, though, I have no issues with them having Tesla. He's looking like he is going to be a long-term piece for this team. It was just that they had to give up so much to get him for essentially your number 3 wide receiver. So I would hope maybe they scale back a little bit on the projects, because it looks like Manu is not going to be if he was a 3rd-round project pick. It's been a couple years. He played 1 game this year and looked like a guy who isn't ready yet, may never be ready. And I think his ceiling at this point maybe is a backup swing tackle. That's not exactly what you want out of a 3rd-round draft pick. Onzarike has never really lived up to anything. Broderick Martin didn't really. No, he's gone.
Yeah.
For example. So there's been a few moves. I think now, hindsight being 2020, guys, that maybe Brad Holmes, was a little bit too much inside his own head as to how, because his first few drafts were so goddamn successful that these last couple have not been so much. But I think the other thing people do kind of forget, there's a big difference between drafting in the top 10 of a draft and drafting in the bottom 5 of a draft and the players you're going to have available to you. So you got to be a little more lucky or something to get an impact player when you're drafting like 26th or 28th or something like that, compared to drafting 10th or 12th or whatever. So, but I would hope that Brad Holmes says, we need depth, we need bodies, and maybe he doesn't start throwing around some extra, some future draft picks to get a guy he thinks might be a piece in 3 years.
Well, I mean, I think the smartest guy in the room thing is that phrase gets thrown around a lot too. By the way,
I know it does.
I think
You're
that,
right.
but I think that I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what it is with Holmes. I think it is with guys like Harris and guys like
Yeah.
Quinn, and I can give you some other examples. But I just think with Holmes, he just got too comfortable. I mean, and and I don't think that's smartest man in the room stuff. I think that they had a good 3-year run, 22 through 24. They won a lot of the second half of 22 through 2024. They won a lot of football games.
Yeah.
And they did have very good drafts, and it seemed like their way was working. And maybe I don't know if the smartest man in the room, maybe going back to the same well too often. Maybe who's guilty of that. I don't get the impression this guy's arrogant, or I mean I could be wrong. Some people think he is. I don't think he is. I just think he got into a little bit of a comfort zone there, and that's why I said it earlier in the show that maybe this whole thing is this eating some humble pie here is good for everyone in the organization.
Yeah.
Holmes on down. Campbell had a bad year. I thought Campbell had a bad year. Nick mentioned earlier about the losing the coordinators, and then you switch play callers in the midseason, and there was upheaval there, and then there was just little things like I know St. Brown got criticized for his podcast, and you got the little thing with Montgomery. Is he happy? Is he not? Is he getting the ball enough? There was just a little Sewell not wanting to play on Christmas, and there was just a lot of not bad stuff necessarily, but just stuff we weren't used to seeing the last couple of years. And maybe that was because the season was grinding on these guys. They weren't used to it either, quite frankly. I mean, they had a pretty good 2.5-year run of things going their way. They had that big streak of never losing 2 games in a row, and that came to an end. And I think it kind of wore on them too. I think all this stuff we're talking about, literally everything we've said so far in this show is correctable with going back out and winning 10, 11 games next year. And we'll forget all about this. The 25 season will be, something we just look back on and say, "Ooh, that was a bad one," and move on. Now, could it go the other way? Sure. Could this be the start of something bad? Sure. Could the Pistons 2-game losing streak to the likes of the Jazz and the Clippers be a start of a bad thing? Sure. I hope not. It's probably just a blip in the road, though.
Yeah. And every team has like a finite run before they have to make sometimes significant adjustments.
Shake it up. Yeah, right.
And it's not a cultural thing. It's not a team culture thing. It's not a front office issue. It's not a, necessarily, well, it is maybe some coaching issue, but they're addressable issues. It's not like you have Darryl Rogers coaching again, or Marinelli, or even Patricia. It's not that kind of thing. So, every team has to make adjustments, and there will be hiccups. Like you mentioned, Greg, the LA Rams, they win the Super Bowl and then they win 5 games the next year. Well, they learned that they have to make adjustments, and they did.
Right.
And they're a good team again.
Right.
So what we're going to find out in this next season is
look at the 49ers last year.
Right. Yeah, and I think 49ers in the last few years went to the Super Bowl twice, and then the year after didn't do so well, but made adjustments each time after that kind of like down year. And so we'll know next year whether this just is simply one of those down years where they have to make adjustments and get back to playing winning football, or whether we've got the same old Lions and we just say, hey, we've had a good 2.5-year run. Here we go again. So, but I think they have a smart front office. They have a good head coach, and we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. But every other team's going to make adjustments next year too. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah, and let's not also factor in that they will, no matter what, they will have a simpler schedule next year because they'll have a 3rd or 4th place schedule.
Right.
So that if there's one advantage of their losing to the Bears this Sunday, is if they do lose, they're guaranteed a 4th place schedule. I think I saw somewhere that it was like the teams as of right now that they would face next year, and I know things change in the NFL, but they would have like a under 400 winning percentage or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of bad teams And as bad as the Lions have been, they are definitely not as bad as like the Giants or something.
Right.
So that will be a definite advantage next year. But the Lions also got to take advantage of it by making some smart choices this coming offseason. And we will have a lot more time to talk about those topics, but we have a lot of other things to talk about to cover yet in the show. So I think that also means it's time for question 2 of the birthday game.
The home version of the Knee Jerks in Trivial Pursuit form is at stake here. This person was, again, made his name in football, born in 1963, is currently coaching in the AFC, but really made his name as a longtime coach in the NFC. He's only in his 3rd year in the AFC, longtime coach in the NFC, and was kind of honed his skills as an offensive genius, if you will, with the Giants and the Cowboys as an assistant coach.
Oh, jeez. Do you have any guesses, Nick?
No.
Coached for 15 years in the NFC. Head coach in the NFC for 15 years. Albeit 1 year. He missed 1 year because of controversy.
The only one I can think of is Sean Payton.
That's the only one you need to think of because that's it.
Yeah, with the controversy, yes.
Yep.
Bounty Gate.
Bounty scandal. Yep, the Bounty Gate. Yep. And then took 1 year off to be a commentator on Fox Sports, and now is back with the Broncos, and the Broncos right back where the Broncos used to be in the good old days.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about Sean Payton's playing days. So
no, he
sounds like he was a scab, basically.
Yeah, he was. So. But yeah, so Sean Payton is the one. So the home version of the Knee Jerks will be on its way to Nick.
Or he can learn some Knee Jerks lore.
Yeah.
Some of that pre-1980 shit that you guys keep wondering why I don't know.
Right.
Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
There was no good Detroit team in the 70s worth thinking about other than
true.
Mark Fidrich.
Yeah.
Literally, nobody. Name another player.
Greg and I could talk about Bill Ahead for half an hour, so and that.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, what?
Hey, we had Bill Ahead as a guest. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Who?
Yes.
Bill Ahead.
Yes.
Bill Ahead. Was it LOCH?
Yeah.
EAD, if I remember right.
He scored the biggest goal in Red Wings history for a time there.
Yeah, at least the biggest goal of the 70s. Easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yes. Yeah. Nick's just shaking his head. Like, what am I doing with these old farts? Jesus.
Not even worth looking up on Wikipedia, guys. Sorry.
Speaking of old farts, apparently the Wolverines hired one. In 66-year-old. How's that for a segue?
Yeah.
66-year-old Kyle
That was good.
Whittingham.
That was good.
Yes.
That was good.
And there's very little to complain about the actual hire. I mean, the guy's got a long track record. He could have a statue built to him out in Utah. He was out there for over 20 years. He's off the Urban Meyer tree. He was Urban Meyer's defensive coordinator back when Urban was running Utah. But it was just so I don't think it's so much about Whittingham. It's just the fact how Michigan kind of fell ass backwards into getting a quality hire after literally 2 weeks of drama and rumors and thinking they could get Kalen DeBoer away from Alabama and then Dillingham out of Arizona State. There was the Jeff Brom rumors from Louisville. People thinking that Biff Poggi, the hedge fund manager who became a football coach under Jim Harbaugh, who's running the team right now, at least now until Whittingham showed up. He wanted to be the coach, and it was also the coaching search guys just showed how ridiculous the whole college football coaching carousel is. Every other day there was a rumor of some sort or another. And guys, you had to think that these are agents angling to get their coach clients more money and that's exactly what happened with Kenny Dillingham out at Arizona State. It was hilarious. One day he's like, the Wolverines are going to offer this guy. Next thing you know, he's signed a contract extension and has gotten assurances from the administration that they're going to increase NIL. So the guy stays. So ultimately, though, Michigan hired Whittingham, who I wouldn't say he left Utah under controversial circumstances, but I think Utah fans aren't exactly thrilled with it because I think what ultimately happened, they had a head coach in waiting, and oftentimes if that head coach in waiting doesn't get that job in a couple years, he starts looking around to where he can step in to be a head coach. So Whittingham stepped down and then immediately announced, "I'm not retiring. I'm in the transfer portal." And next thing you know, University of Michigan has a highly qualified coach who is likely headed to the College Football Hall of Fame. Nick, as an alum, what do you think of this whole from Sherrone Moore imploded his career to all the stuff that came out about how disorganized the University of Michigan football department was? Then you got Ward Manuel, the athletic coordinator, the athletic director, is being investigated. It really feels like the school was just laying the groundwork so they could ultimately fire him for cause, much like they did with Moore, so they won't have to pay. They won't have to pay a buyout. To now stumbling into Kyle Whittingham. It's been it's 2 weeks I never thought I would see from a school, a blue blood that's the likes of Michigan.
So I will say this, to me, this coaching search wasn't as bad as when Lloyd Carr retired.
Yeah.
I've said this before.
Oh, yeah.
That was the worst circus. That was the one where they really
Les Miles, right? That where everybody thought it was going to be.
Oh, that was. Yes. Or then I think when they replaced Rich Rod with Hoke, they were watching every fucking flight. Brandon was wondering whether he's going to go sign a coach, and it's like he's going on a hunting trip, and he's got Hoke tied up in the back somehow, and he's going to unload him off the plane. But that was a circus. Those were absolute nightmares, and even with Harbaugh and when they signed him. This was just kind of like your average level of ridiculous rumors, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even bother listening to one name or the other because I'm seeing it all on social media, and it's just somebody who's posting. It's their fantasy, and it's their baseless explanation of why this guy didn't take the job. And so I don't know. Look, Michigan has won a lot of games with Harbaugh, especially in his later years. Yeah. But Harbaugh is the kind of guy, and I said this from early on, when they first hired him, that fucker wears out his welcome. Yeah. He gets on people's nerves after a while. It's great if they're winning. We put up with a lot of shit from Harbaugh and his team the year they won a national championship. But if they were not winning, it would have really gotten old. And it was actually getting old, somewhere around 2019 and 2020. Yep. And so the AD put a squeeze on Harbaugh. It's like, you got to start winning or I'm getting rid of you. Mm-hmm. And that's when things changed. Plus, it was just like Harbaugh is a circus. He's going, and now Sherrone Moore is kind of sort of in the wake of Harbaugh's circus, and that was bizarre. Mm-hmm. I've said this before. Whatever Sherrone Moore was doing was nuts. I don't know which things are true that I've read online, so I won't bother repeating them. But it just didn't seem like the focus was playing football. Yeah, there's all kinds of other crazy shit going on. It's like, okay, with this coach, maybe he's a little dull, maybe he's a little bit boring, but some people liken him to John Beeline, which is just fine with me. Beeline was an awesome coach.
Yes, that would be perfect. Exactly.
No controversy. Coaches his players, wins more than you might expect him to win, and it's just we're watching the game. That's all I want. I don't want to hear any of this fucking off-field drama. This, whatever, these scandals, non-scandals. Harbaugh and his tiffs with the NCAA, with the Big Ten commissioner and all that other. I'm tired of that crap. It's just like play some football, put a competitive team out there every year, and try and get into the playoffs, if not win the whole thing. So that's just it. I'm tired of the drama. It's like,
I think when you talk to the Michigan fan base, I think that's it right there. As much as they enjoyed the winning during the Harbaugh years, I think you're right. They were exhausted of all the circus that surrounded everything, from Connor Stallions to guys getting arrested for going into the computers, to get data, whatever the hell was going on. That guy's got to go to prison, for Christ's sake. Sign gate and everything else that went on. So I think as a Michigan fan, you're an alum, I'm a fan. I am glad that they just bolted from the Harbaugh tree, because there was some talk about maybe getting like Jesse Minter, who was the defensive coordinator for a couple years early on in Harbaugh's tenure, or getting some other guys that were part of the in the Harbaugh circle, the Harbaugh tree. Is like it's time. This too much drama is associated with that. It's time to just move on. And good Lord, Kyle Whittingham is a highly qualified coach, and as you said, there's not a whiff of drama or scandal or controversy with him. Especially he's Mormon. How much trouble can he get into? So and he really feels like a guy who goes, I think in the back of his head he's thinking, I am not going to be able to win a national championship at Utah. That place has a ceiling. The ceiling at Michigan is a lot higher than the ceiling at Utah. So I can understand him saying, I'll sign a 5-year contract, go to Michigan, make the playoffs, and go from there. Because Utah just making the playoffs would be a successful season there. At Michigan, making the playoffs is essentially what you have to do. And then the Michigan, the ceiling is national title. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to see what's going to go on from there. But yeah, I don't know about you, Greg, because I know there's rumblings. You've told us about there's rumblings at Eastern as it comes to Coach Creighton and his job security, that just coaching searches really bring out the absolute nutcases in fan bases.
Yeah, anymore. It's really it's a big event. I mean, these are big time decisions. Coaches anymore, these programs are, it's just different, way different.
They're the face of the university in many ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these are big decisions. I mean, these guys get paid so much money.
Yeah,
and it's just different. I think that. I personally am really glad. I'm kind of agnostic when it comes to Michigan. I really have a dog in the race, but I am glad to see them go way out of the Michigan realm and get somebody like Whittingham. I really am, because he's exactly, I think, what they needed, was somebody that has no stench on him whatsoever. No promoting from within. No old Michigan alum who's coming home.
Yeah.
No, he used to coach quarterbacks here in 2010. I mean, none of that stuff. Not a shred of Ann Arbor on this guy. And I like that. I think that's exactly where they're at right now. And props to Ward Manuel. I know you said that they kind of fell into their lap. Whittingham did. Okay, fine. That's okay. Yeah. Sometimes it happens that way. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't have the luxury of having a long drawn out search anyway, because of the timing of it.
Yeah, like Penn State's, it went like 3 months.
Yeah, so this is just fine and dandy. Michigan will be fine, I think, with this guy. He's 66, and I kind of like that. I kind of, I'm 62 myself. I know, Al, you're a little older than I am. It's kind of refreshing to see the older guys. It just kind of puts to rest, for at least temporarily, that there's any sort of ageism going on. It's so many coaches are in their 30s, and that's great. But it's nice to see a guy like this get another crack at a big time job like Michigan. He's not having to go and coach at Liberty or at Navy or somewhere. He's coaching Michigan at age 66. And I like that. I think that there's some sort of charm to that. But that aside, I think for the benefit of the program, a guy like that is just what they needed. I think. I hope that's what they needed anyway.
Yeah, and there'd be no talk of him going to the NFL.
Right,
was another
exactly.
thing that's another thing that just grated on Michigan. It's every year. Is Harbaugh coming back? Is Harbaugh and he's out there interviewing for jobs? Jesus Christ, yeah. Harbaugh, great football coach, but that man is crazy.
Right.
So yeah.
I was starting to equate him with Larry Brown.
Yes, that's a good comparison.
I mean, like Larry Brown was a phenomenal coach, but he had a limited shelf life.
Yeah.
With any team.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Coaches are wired differently. A lot of them are just nomads at heart. After a few years, they get the itch to move on to something. That was Larry Brown to a T. 3-4 years, he was ready to move on. And coaches are just weird that way sometimes. That's not me, but there's no way I could have been a coach and have to uproot my life every couple of years, especially when those guys are young. They're job hopping across the damn country, taking a step up, taking a lateral move, upward move. Oh, my head coach got fired. Now I got to find another job. Oh my God, I couldn't do it. I mean, those guys are cut from a different cloth.
It's worse than being in the military, really.
Yes, yeah. But and speaking of that, Greg, what are there any rumblings coming from Ypsilanti about what's going on with Coach Creighton?
I haven't heard anything yet. I think he'll be okay. But patience is wearing thin. Yeah. I don't think Houston wants to pay him for another couple of years to not coach. His contract runs through 2028. I think he'll be okay. But it's been a couple of bad years in a row. But I think it's fixable. I think what grates everybody is that they see Central and Western kind of lap them a little bit. But I think they'll be okay. I mean, he's a good coach. He's established something there at Eastern. And you mentioned before, Al, it's a tough place to win, but he's done it. I mean, he's done it before. So we'll see. I think he's okay, though. But I think this is the first time, though, I've really kind of seen grumblings among the fan base about him.
Yeah, that's just a hard place to win games, and having a couple of down seasons there is understandable. But I think a 500 season would be really, really nice, or a little bit of a bowl game. How's that? Just win 6 games and make a bowl game. And, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, with that, guys, well, I might as well talk about a couple of better teams as we kind of hit the home stretch here. The Pistons, West Coast trip right now. They are in one of their toughest stretches of the season. 8 road games out of 10 games. A West Coast swing of 5 games in 8 days, which we're in the midst of right now. I believe they're 2-2. They wrap up the West Coast swing, I believe, tomorrow night against the Lakers. And then things start to, schedule-wise, you're going to have a lot more home games. The schedule is going to ease up for them somewhat. But regardless of the difficult schedule and the travel over the holidays, they've been on the road for the entire holiday period. They remain and even though they did lose, they have lost 2 games in a row. They are 24-8, have a 1.5 game lead over the New York Knicks, and there's a few cracks starting to show, and I think more than anything else, it's just 3-point shooting. This team needs if the teams can sag off, and if the sag off, go into the zone, go into the paint, and just tell the Pistons, go ahead and start shooting 3-pointers. And if Duncan Robinson isn't hitting his threes, or Cade Cunningham isn't hitting threes, they're in trouble offensively. And we've seen that a couple times on this trip. So if there's one thing the Pistons, and I think it's pretty obvious, we've known this since the season started, guys, that was going to be the crack in the foundation with the current Pistons is shooting. The lack of not having a guy like Beasley, who was on a heater the entirety of last year. And there's no guarantee that Beasley would be any better than Duncan Robinson is this year, because Robinson is having a more typical 3-point shooting year. Good team. Still need some help. I guess the question is, how deep, how big of a move do you think they're going to make? Or I'll just ask you guys, what do you think of this team as we're starting to push halfway to the year, getting close. Where do you go with this? Because everybody knows what this team lacks. The problem is, how do you get it? Or do you just figure we'll get it in the offseason?
I think we talked about this a little bit last
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and I've heard actually JB Bickerstaff mention this too. It's like, let's see what we have in this team.
Yeah.
Don't make any like hasty moves or kind of like extreme trades of any kind at this time. Just like see what we've got.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
I don't know who to go after. I mean, like if I look
Yeah.
online, it's like here we'll trade half the team for Anthony Davis, and then next it's Giannis, and next it's some other guy, and it's like,
Yeah, I heard someone. Oh, Paulie Leonard would look really good on this. No, you're not trading for a guy like that. No,
no,
you're right.
or Markkanen from Utah.
Yes, and Lauri Markkanen. Yeah.
It's like settle down, everybody. And
Yeah.
you're not going to trade two guys out of your rotation and like 4 first-round draft picks to get these guys. Forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's very few guys where you would give up that kind of those kinds of assets. And
Right.
so, but where do they go? They do need some 3-point shooting. They need a little more consistent shooting.
Yeah.
Let's face it, some of the I've seen Duran get better at shooting, not just dunking, but actual shooting in general. Asar Thompson is a shooting liability.
Yep.
When I see someone kick out the 3-point ball to him, I'm like, sweet Jesus, what are they thinking? He's an awful shooter.
Yeah.
To be honest. And so, defensively, energy-wise, he reminds me more of the Worm than anything else, who also couldn't shoot. So, but I don't know where they go next. They will need some, a little more 3-pointers, because when the other team is hot hitting 3-pointers, that's where their Detroit's Achilles heel becomes. They just they can't match that.
Yeah.
So
I guess the question is, Greg, could Jaden Ivey be that guy? But I don't know if he's on a minutes restriction or if Bickerstaff doesn't trust him yet, because Ivey has been getting until I think last night, he's been getting no more than 14 minutes a game.
I think that's got to be by design. I think it's got to be by design. He suffered the injury a year ago, almost exactly to the day. I think it was January 1st last year.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably by design that he's getting those kind of minutes. I think he's fairly productive though in the minutes he's getting. When I'm looking at the box scores, these aren't like empty minutes. He's filling up the score sheet pretty good, decently in those limited minutes. He can be that guy. Duncan Robinson's, I think, filled in real nicely. I think that was a good pickup. There are a lot of teams, though, Al, to be fair, in the NBA, that if their shooting dries up, they dry up. I mean, the league is built around 3-point shooting. So if you go cold, you're gonna struggle. The Celtics are a good example of that. They build their entire offense practically around 3-point shooting. If they're not hitting their shots, they're gonna lose more often than not. The thing I like about the Pistons, though, I don't think they seem to rely on the 3-point shot as much as I think some people think they do. I think Cade's 3-point shot got ticked up a little bit. I think it's a little bit better. But somebody made a good point. I'm not sure if it was on this program or where I heard it, that Cade plays so many minutes, and in the past couple of years has been the guy for so long that he expends a lot of energy. And in the last several minutes of games, his legs, and you need your legs to shoot 3-point shots effectively. And sometimes, and that's where he can, get in a little bit of trouble. But I think these 2 losses to the Jazz and the Clippers, albeit surprising because those are 2 bad teams in the West. I like to think that those are aberrations. We'll see what they do against the Lakers, but they're having a fine year. They're doing well. But I think that, in answer to your question, I think that the Ivy thing is by design. I don't think it's anything to trust. I think that's a design thing. I think we'll start to see the minutes ramp up, I should say, a little bit more in the second half of the season or the 2026 portion of the season. I'm not worried about that. But I think they'll be okay. It would be nice to see them maybe pick up another shooter around the trade deadline, of course, if they can do that.
I'll confirm that I think JB Bickerstaff say that Ivy's minutes are by design, actually, to get him back up to speed. And I think they're freeing him up to, give him some more playing time, like right around now. I think he's getting a little more getting back into the rotation. And so,
Yeah, it's if Ivy could become the Robin, that would make things a lot simpler for Trajan Langton. That's for damn sure. But yeah, it's funny how we were just talking about the Lions and Lee McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson and how they they were coming off major injuries and they just weren't quite as good as they were last year because they didn't play for essentially a year. And we're talking about Ivy, who broke his leg and then had to have knee surgery, and he didn't play for a year. So yeah, it's understandable that the Pistons are being very, very careful. It's just getting very frustrating if you look at spend any bit of time at Pistons Twitter, and they why play Ivy, play Ivy, play Ivy. And again, this is where I'm willing to err more on the side of the coach and the team, as they see the guy every goddamn day, and they know what they need to do to build up strength, and get him healthy. He just hasn't played, and I would, if those minutes restrictions now make him a better player in game 82 when they're getting ready for the playoffs, yeah, it's going to definitely be the right thing to do.
Yeah, one of the things, not so much about Ivy, but Greg was mentioning Cade. Cade gets mugged all game long.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, the other teams are definitely afraid of him, so they're triple teaming him. And Cade, even though he has like a lot of assists, honestly, he makes a lot of bad passes too. So, and those are you get turnovers out of that. So, I'm like, before everybody starts making an uproar, I'm not calling Cade a bad player. I mean, he gets mugged a lot, and so some of those bad passes may be because he's just being smothered by three other guys. So, and can't dish the ball out to anybody.
Yeah, and Bickerstaff, I think it was the Dallas game about a week and change ago, where he actually came out and said the referees are biased against us.
Yeah.
Because that game was actually, if I remember right, that game was absolutely ridiculous. When it came one, there was a huge free throw disparity between the two teams, and it was just an ugly officiated game. And it was that game was like the poster child for what's wrong with NBA reffing in today's game. Is that they literally took over the game. And Bickerstaff was absolutely livid in the post game, and I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about a fine or anything about that, because he did not hold back. Essentially saying, calling the referees inept and biased.
Yeah, well, I remember that.
He the reason he said that, he quoted, there was one of the refs that told him.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure if it was before the game or during the game, that they essentially have. They kind of look. I'm going to get the wording wrong, so I'm not going to try to do it verbatim. But it was something to the effect of the ref was insinuating to JB that the refs have it kind of in their head to keep their eye out on the Pistons, and we can find I'm sure we can find the quote. But that's what he was responding to. Bickerstaff was responding. He used that in his little diatribe. He mentioned that exchange with the ref. He said that, so that tells me that they're already thinking of us in a certain way when we step on the court, and that's what he was upset about. And not to mention what you're talking about, the free throw disparity and so forth.
I think I remember that game. I think that's where Cade got it. No, was it Thompson got ejected, and then Cade had a technical foul on him called when Cade wasn't even near the ref, and
they
just some weird Thompson shit
because he accidentally touched the referee when it was the referee going towards him. And then people online were saying, yet you can see LeBron James literally grabbing a referee like this and not even having a technical foul called out. Yeah.
And I don't think you're wrong about that discrepancy in free throws. I think I don't remember whether it was the Utah game or not, or the one before that, where the other team had like twice as many free throw attempts as the Pistons. It was pretty nuts. And the team does get into foul trouble a lot. I think in Cade got into foul trouble in the Clippers game.
Yeah.
Pretty early on. He had 3 fouls on him somewhere by the second quarter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to pull him out of the game. Doesn't help that Leonard had 58 points and was shooting lights out.
Yes.
Right.
Like, hard to combat
Leonard
that.
was just making ridiculous shots. He was just not going to. He had one of those nights where you weren't going to stop him. That's how it was.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, whatever. They're still fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch. They have some. I don't think they'll win the championship kind of caliber, but they're on a kind of like that upward trajectory. Yeah. So they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did find the quote. This is what Bickerstaff said after that game. He says, when asked about the officiating in the first half, he said, let's address that. A referee makes a comment to me about night by night, this is how our interactions are. That says to me that the referees are coming into game and not being objective.
Right.
Yeah. And it was, and it's understandable. Yeah. And really, I can understand. I'm glad Bickerstaff though is actually speaking up to power compared to Monty Williams a couple years ago, who just kind of stood there with his arms crossed, and then in the post game would say, "Well, it is what it is," kind of.
Yeah.
So at the very least, Bickerstaff is standing up for his players, and that's really what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Guys, I'm going to have to break free from this podcast. I'm
no, like I said, we can start wrapping things up. So, you need to go right now, or do you want to do your joke of the week? Or?
Yeah, I think pretty much right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we will say goodbye to Greg. Greg, before you go, tell everybody where they can go to your Substack.
Yeah, please. GregEno.substack.com. Please subscribe. I will be in your inbox every Monday. I would appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at Greg Eno, or X if you prefer to call it that, and follow the Knee Jerks, of course. At the Knee Jerks. Want to thank my lovely wife Sharon, of course. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, and carry on without me if you want to, because I don't want to rain on your parade, but I got to go.
All right, Greg. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right.
See you, Greg.
All right, it's just us two, just like it was a few years ago.
Right on.
when you Wally pipped Greg, but but we might as well wrap things up ourselves. So I guess let's just do our jerk of the week, and then we'll call it a night. So who's your jerk?
My jerk of the week is going to go to a Detroit Lions fan, Ryan Kennedy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know where I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
That incident was during the Steelers game, and it was the one where DK Metcalf took a swipe at a fan who was saying something to him. Yeah. And with all the crap that fans say to players, shout at them, there must have been something that triggered DK.
Yeah.
Now DK got suspended for the last 2 games of the season, and without pay, that cost him a little over $500,000. And there was some talk about his contract not being guaranteed, or the Steelers had a choice not to guarantee it or not. They're going to guarantee it, so that's a non-issue. But this guy, the fan, his name is Ryan Kennedy, and then he did a press conference the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Talking about not having used any racial slurs. So what? You fucking taunted him somehow.
Yeah.
And you pissed him off by using his full name, DeCalen. And in his press conference, he called him DeCalen and begged him to call off people because his family was being harassed.
Yeah.
What exactly was this guy doing at the game that ticked off a player?
Yeah.
What was he shouting and saying to him? And then he's like, poor me, surrounded by lawyers. So this guy seemed like he was looking to pick a fight of some kind and stir up some controversy. And it's dumb and getting out of hand. Yeah. So my jerk of the week is the Detroit Lions fan, Ryan Kennedy, for just causing trouble, basically.
Yeah. I'm with you there, Nick. I never understood fans who. It's one thing to kind of heckle a little bit, but a lot of these guys get way too personal or way too racist or way too something, and why they feel the need to do it to begin with. Because the same thing on social media, when you see fans go after players on social media, and it's like, what has gotten into people? I don't know. I'm with you there. It was absolutely. I would not bother me if the Lions and the NFL just banned that guy from the stadium. I mean, you don't need that crap in the stands. You really don't.
No, you don't. Honestly, a lot of Lions fans, their comments when they saw that whole press conference was posted on social media, basically made a similar comment to what I did. The only person I saw that supported Ryan Kennedy and say, "What's the big deal?" is this guy from 97.1, Mark Ryan, I think.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that guy. Yeah.
So I like I said, I don't know about the 97.1 guys, but I'm not giving it much credit.
Yeah, I think most fans are lean on the side of you went way over the top, dude. There was no reason to get personal like that. So I'm with you there 100%. All right, my jerk of the week. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I thought about maybe Notre Dame for backing out of the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Saying they were too dignified, which is it's a bowl game. Good goddamn Lord, and it's the most fun bowl game, for Christ's sake. They realize it's a meaningless bowl game. So they just amp up the hijinks and hilarity and whatever. And it turned out to be a really damn good game between Georgia Tech and BYU anyway. But that's Notre Dame being holier than thou, if you know what I mean. Well, literally and figuratively. So fuck Notre Dame. But I'm going to go something a little more closer to home, something that's bothered me for quite a while, and that's the Lions uniforms. What are their official colors, Nick? Honolulu blue and silver, correct?
As far as I know.
Yes,
I don't know if that's true anymore.
I know. And isn't the traditional uniform the Honolulu blue jersey with with silver stripes and silver pants, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When is the last time you've seen him wear that outfit? The traditional Barry Sanders era uniform.
It's been a long time. And,
yes.
I don't mind.
I'm not talking the throwbacks either. Just their basic standard uniform. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah.
I thought they phased that out.
I don't think, but you'd think they must have between they either wear the blueberries, the all blue uniform, or the all white uniform, or the all black uniform. Bring back this Honolulu blue and silver, the silver pants. Bring back the silver pants with a blue jersey. That's the uniform I grew up watching. That I can understand maybe what for the one-offs. Like Thanksgiving they had the throwbacks, or like for a Monday night game or Sunday night game they might break out something different or special. But for a Sunday at 1:00 game, break out your standard uniform. I know it's silly, I know it's dumb, but I want to see the Lions in Honolulu blue and silver, not all blue or all white or all black. So that's my jerk of the week. Whoever's making the decision for the Lions attire, bring back the traditional uniform, please.
I could argue that with like every one of the damn teams in Detroit, which that includes like the leagues themselves.
Oh yeah, don't get me going on like the Pistons alternate jerseys or the Tigers City Connects. Oh my God, those are horrendous with the Motor City. They look like softball jerseys.
Oh,
and that's an insult.
I try not to get caught up with that, but it's like I can't even keep track of the players, like who's on the team.
I'm with you there.
It takes me a while sometimes. Like, oh, that's the Pistons wearing that shit from the 90s. Like, okay.
Yes.
Okay, now I got it. Now I know who the team is.
Oh, yeah. Well, hell, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, let's have the Tigers bring back wearing two different Ds on the hat and the jersey. They standardized that a few years ago,
people talk about that online a lot.
I know.
Get into it like, okay, this is the jersey they wore then. It's like, I don't care. I don't care if they wear their gorilla outfit as long as they win the damn game. Honestly, I can't. To be honest, I don't put that much thought into them.
Yeah, I know there was it just recently went under. I don't know if you've heard of there used to be a website called UniWatch. And they literally tracked all that kind of stuff. The different patches teams wore or all the different changes teams would make in their jerseys and caps and helmets and shoes and socks and everything.
Damn.
It's literally a rabbit hole, though. When you talk about all the pro sports teams, then you start talking college teams as well. Or then you have something like Oregon, it has like 200 different uniforms. So yeah, it's really a rabbit hole. But my little rabbit hole is just bring back the Honolulu blue and silver uniforms, please. So, all right, with that, let's get the hell out of here. We'll actually get out at a decent time for once. So, Nick, let everybody know where they can find you online if they want to talk a little sports.
Yep, very simple. I'm on Twitter. My handle is right there below my name. It's just at Nick Milanovich. I'm happy to talk Detroit sports. I think I stirred up one guy on the Tigers thing when I said Al Avila might actually be a better GM than Scott Harris. Oh, man. Not that I think either one is any good. So
them's fighting words. I can tell you that right now. At least with some people.
So,
because Detroit sports Twitter, it can be very interesting to say the very least. Very vocal as well. All right. And please go to Greg's Substack. He always has a fascinating column to read every Monday. So please check that out. And as for me, I hardly ever on social media. Hell, I spend if I do go on social media, it's usually Reddit. God help me. So, but as always, please like, share, and subscribe to the Knee Jerks podcast. We are available pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. Just type in or do a search for, I should say, the Knee Jerks podcast, the Knee Jerks of Eno, Nick, and Big Al, something to that effect, and you will be able to find us on any playing like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Deezer, Radio Public. Pretty much any podcast aggregator, we are on there. Please like us. Please subscribe. And as well, go to our webpage, which is thekneejerks.net. All the show notes will be found there. All the links to social media topics we talk about, all linked there. You can also download the MP3 from there if you don't want to deal with an aggregator. So, please do. And as well, we live stream video of the show to YouTube and Twitch every week. Every 2 weeks, I should say. So, if you want to see what we look like, if you want to, I don't know if you want to, you just want to watch two old guys and one middle-aged guy talk, there you go, Twitch and YouTube. Again, the Knee Jerks podcast, that's all you need to type. All right, let's get the hell out of here, Nick. So, I guess we will be back in 2 weeks. We're pretty much on a standard schedule right now because I haven't been going anywhere. And I'll probably be that way till the end of January. So we're on a regular 2 week schedule. So we'll see you in 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from Monday, I should say. So until then, I guess it's time to get out of here. So this is Al Beaton saying good evening, good luck, and aloha, along with Nick Milanovich.
Good night, guys.
And I will also say good night for Greg Eno. Ciao Italy, as he always likes to say. So until that time, we'll see you in a couple weeks. You guys have a great night. Thanks for listening.